showcase our new B340 that has been closed for over 30 years without guests in the space. I think during your tour you'll see it, you'll see the stories, you'll see the photos on the wall. There's some wonderful stories that Commodore Everett will share with you during the tour. And again, I hope you enjoy the room as much as we've enjoyed putting it together. We have a wealth of reservations on that room already. It's been on the website for about a week, and we already have about 40 reservations on the room already. So the demand is great, and we're really excited to enhance the paranormal experience here on the Queen Mary with this wonderful new stateroom. So I'm not going to talk too much. We're going to let you get to the stateroom and see it, and we hope you enjoy it. And again, thank you for coming, and we hope to see you again. Have a great evening. Thanks, everybody.
Well, everyone, I hope we're ready finally to go into the area that this whole celebration is all about, and that's B340. And so I'm not going to say too much here because I want to get you in the room and let you experience it for yourselves. So if you'd follow me this way.
There's no number on the wall.
You're sure you want to do this?
Oh, wait, you gotta repeat that. Hang on. Hang on, you gotta repeat that. Let's see if I can sneak in. Oh, come on.
You're sure you want to do this?
Yes.
Is everybody sure? A show of hands. Woo! Okay, all right. Well, I want you to know I experience a vertigo every time I go into this cabin. I've had it on and off tonight until I'm feeling the effects of it even now. But please, welcome to B340. On my behalf and on the behalf of our unseen guests, I welcome you. And I'll turn on a few more lights here so you can see how well furnished the cabin is. Custom here in the lot.
Does the Ouija board come along with your reservation?
The Ouija board does come along with your reservation. So anyone that would like to work the Ouija board tonight, or the crystal ball, or the tarot cards, is welcome.
I know how to do it. I know.
So the last one through the door, close the door.
This is a bit.
All right. And go ahead and close the door. We want it to be as intimate as possible. So welcome to B340. This room has not been occupied since the mid-'80s, of course. And some of the occurrences that led to that was hotel guests checking into the room and complaining that the lights would go on and off behind themselves, that the water in the bathroom would start and stop. One housekeeper came into the room one day, and the beds in those days were on this side, and made the bed perfectly, and went outside into the alleyway to her cart to get some towels for the bathroom. And when she came back in, she found the bed that she had just made all rumpled up and crumpled up in the floor. And so she went and reported that, and at that point, with all of the guest complaints, or comments, I like to say instead of complaints, might have been complaints back then because people weren't as open-minded about paranormal activity as they are today. The company decided not to rent the room anymore, and it was turned into a series of offices. But over the last 20 years, I can tell you it was gutted to the floor. There was nothing in here. It was just, it looked very depressing. The psychic Kim Russo, who works on that A&E television show, The Haunting of, came in here with soap opera star Kristen Renton. And Kim Russo walks through the door and is just overcome right from the start. And she says, "Oh my God, oh my God." And she walks around the room, and after a few minutes of just some of the strangest looks I've ever seen on a person's face, she looked at me and she said, "I believe someone was restrained and tortured here." That's neither here nor there. That's her perception, which we don't know. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. There's a story when the ship was at sea. Again, the bed was in the side of the cabin, of a female passenger in mid-Atlantic, was awakened in the middle of the night. The covers had been pulled off of her, and there was a man in a dark suit or uniform at the foot of the bed. She immediately reached across and pressed the button to call the steward, whose pantry was just right over here. And the steward comes running over, and she says, "Did you see him? Did you see him?" And he says, "Madam, what are we talking about? Did you have a dream?" She says, "No, there was a man at the foot of my bed. He pulled the covers off of me." And he said, "Madam, I've been there the whole time. There's no one there." And so maybe whatever there is about Mary has been with Mary a very long time. If you think about it, I believe that this ship has a soul. Now, I'm a romantic about the ship. I've loved her my whole life. I'm 57 years old. I've loved her. I've known of her for 55 years. And the day King George launched the ship, he did say, "No longer will she be a number on the books, but a ship with a name in the world, alive with beauty, energy, and strength." And today we have the happy task of sending forth on her way the stateliest ship now in being. I mean, he gave this ship a life from the very start. And somebody else said something interesting that day. And her name was Lady Mabel Fortescue Harrison, and she was a well-known English psychic. They call it Fae. If you're Fae, that means you're psychic. And Lady Mabel made a comment and was carried in all the press that most of us will be gone when this takes place. But the ship launched today, called the Queen Mary, will know her greatest fame and popularity when she never sails another mile or carries another fare-paying passenger. And I can tell you, the ship carried 2.2 million people in peace, but since opening to the public here, we've seen 55 million guests in the 50 years that it has sat here in this berth. So there is some staggering truth to that utterance. And so, well, here we are. What do we talk about? I mean, do we know what's in B340? Absolutely not. Do I feel vertigo right now? Yes, I do. I felt it every time I walked in here all night long, and it's not comfortable for me. Other places I feel it in the ship or in the pool. I feel it also in boiler rooms. It's a very concentrated thing right here, though. Whatever did happen, so we don't know. Also, there's some geographical anomalies here. Very close to the swimming pool is this cabin. As the crow flies, maybe we're 75 feet away from the pool. If you go 75 feet in the other direction, you go into the cargo holds where scores of German prisoners died from heat exhaustion during the Second World War when the ship was operating in the Red Sea. No air conditioning this vessel. She's designed to carry 3,000 people, including the crew. Well, here you have 10,000 men being evacuated from northern Africa in a landlocked sea with boilers in the belly of the ship, boiling water at 700 degrees Fahrenheit. It was 110 degrees inside the ship. And many people were sick from the heat, and many did not make it. So we don't really know how many people died during the war on the Queen Mary. There's no records of it kept. We know about 50 some odd people died in peacetime, 2 or 3 accidents, and most from natural causes. But that is what it is. You know, if we'd like to turn the lights out, and it might have just a little bit more of an ambiance to it. If you over there would get all the lamps and the light on the wall, those of us over here will work to close these lights, and please turn the one off in the bathroom and the closet.
How do you turn the ones on the walls off?
There should be a switch over here somewhere on one side of the wow, that's it. Yay. Okay, good. Well, so I think maybe most ships are haunted, but I think we notice it more here because this ship is the only ship like it left in the world. You'll never see a ship that had so much focus on getting it constructed. Captain Treasure Jones used to say of the Queen Mary that he felt that she had character, she had personality, but above all else, she was the closest thing to a living being that he had ever commanded, and that she even breathed. He would also say that you only had to will her to do something, and she did. And that's pretty strong words for a sea captain. The Queen Mary had 33 captains. Her very first captain, Sir Edgar Britton, actually died up in the captain's cabin. He had a stroke within 6 months of taking command of the ship because of the enormous strain of operating a ship like this. other tragedies that happened in the ship. There was a young engineer that died in a watertight door down in Shaft Alley. I won't mention his name out of respect to him. It's a well-known haunting here on the ship. He was found in the door like this at about 4:10 in the morning on the 10th of December, the 10th of July, 1966. That sort of suggests to me that he might have been murdered, and we don't know what happened. The door was found to be in perfect operating order. I will say this, that the ship had only made 3 voyages with this engineer in it, and it was the 3 voyages after one of the most notorious strikes to ever hit the British Merchant Navy. Literally, every merchant ship in England was still for 6 weeks, and it was the strike that would end the Queen Mary's career, because after that strike, Cunard had lost enough money that they could no longer afford to operate the ship. And so a lot of the crew may have felt that this young fellow, only in the ship since the strike, was a scab. And unions were very powerful back then and had some very willful people. So there are a lot of people with a lot of different thoughts on that. Some people think he was playing chicken with the door. I can tell you, no one would play chicken with a 2-ton door. It takes 30 seconds for that door to open and 30 seconds for it to close. And so it was found to be in good order. Then there's Second Officer Stark, which we used his name quite a lot. He accidentally drank dry cleaning fluid. You may have been told about that. And he died from that injury just out in the alleyway over here. Another officer fell in rough weather down those stairs and died just out here. So there's been some death on board. There has, no doubt. But there's been life on board the Queen Mary. In this ship, during peacetime, there were 9 babies born in the ship. So a condensed bit of life has lived here. I've had some paranormal experiences in the ship myself, and the very first one was probably around 1985, early 1986. I was giving a tour along the belly of the ship in the boiler rooms and went to the collision bulkhead. If you're up on the main deck, on where the anchor chains are, you can look down and into this tank. It's called the forepeak, but there's no way to access it from inside the ship. It's the last watertight door, the first defense in case of a collision. Well, the Queen Mary was involved in a collision in 1942 with HMS Curacao. The cruiser had come out to meet the Queen Mary in the Irish Sea and escort her into Scotland. The cruiser, not conforming to the Queen Mary's zigzag, was drawn by the suction of the bow wave in the Queen Mary under the ship's bows and split in half. 338 men of the Royal Navy were either crushed, boiled by the steam in their boilers when they exploded, or chopped up in the Queen Mary's propellers. The rest of them that died in a burning sea, probably ingesting burning oil. So it was a horrific death for all of them. But as I was giving this tour that day, which is the point of impact for that collision, I began to hear breathing from the other side of the bulkhead. And at first it was very faint. I thought I was hearing things. And then slowly it became louder and more audible, and I finally just stopped talking, and I looked at my guest, and I could see in their eyes the fright, and I knew that they were hearing what I was hearing, and I was feeling it going down the back of my neck. You should have seen 3 adults clamber up 12 decks and sit on a bench under a lifeboat and wonder what has happened to them. I have never had anything like that happen to me before or since. Well, I can't say since because I've heard the breathing since, but never before. And so that was where it began. And before that, I never believed in ghosts. And I'm not sure that I know that I still believe that ghosts are people once lived. Maybe it's a reflection of what we were is what we see. But whatever it is here in the ship. But I've had them touch me. I've had them, I've heard one speak on the 31st of May 2011. My wife and I spent 3 nights in cabin M005 up on main deck. And about 8 o'clock in the morning, she went for coffee. And I felt my bed shake. I thought we'd had an earthquake. Because even though the Queen Mary's afloat, the gangways will jostle on the side of the vessel and it will make it shudder. As soon as it happened, I raised up, I looked around, the bed stops, and nothing in the cabin is moving. My uniform is hanging there, nothing is moving. It's just a dead silence, and it was unusually silent. And it affected me something on the inside. And at that point, I realized that something was about to happen. And I laid my head back down on the pillow, and I heard a young lady whisper into my left ear, and she said, "I'm so cold. I'm so very, very cold." I can assure you I was wide awake after that. But later on, about August of that year. The Scottish shop, the lady that owned and ran it, found me in the main hall, and she said, "Oh, Commodore," she said, "I have a guest." And I never told her my story. I have a guest, and she's complaining that her mom's downstairs freezing to death in the cabin. Can you do something with the air for them? I said, "Sure, what number is it?" And she said, M001. And I immediately knew that it was the cabin, and I went and shot that vent. And the air coming out of that vent was 74 degrees. But sure enough, Mom is blue and freezing, and we had to have them moved. But so there are a lot of occurrences in the Queen Mary. People comment all the time. We have 10, 12 comments a week. We keep a ledger of cabins that we know that things, comments have been made. Lights going on and off, music, a presence felt, someone sitting next to you. They think someone's sitting next to you. Why all this in the Queen Mary? One can only know. But I think it really goes back to the ship herself having a soul. And I think carrying so many powerful people with powerful personalities. And as we do go through our lives, I'll bet we do leave a reflection of something, especially those of us that have so much determination. But there are areas of the ship that I will not go by myself. I would never stay in this cabin here. And I've stayed in the Queen Mary 1,000 times over the last 30 years probably, but I will not stay here. And it's because I'm not comfortable here. I'm not comfortable here now. Others may understand it differently. Maybe what's in here might be more compatible with somebody else. We don't know. We don't understand spirits. But we're close to the pool. The pool is known, the dressing rooms in the pool are known to be a vortex into another universe. Or at least so Matt Schultz and psychics like Matt, Eric Frost, Peter, what was his name? I can't remember his name.
Peter James.
Peter James, thank you. Peter James commonly talked about the ghost in the ship. And we didn't talk too much about it in the 80s, in the early 90s, because people really were afraid. But I think that we live in a time to where I think all of us are somewhat fascinated with stuff that we don't understand. And we want to know more. And I don't know if we'll ever know, but we might. Does anyone feel any vertigo or anything at all?
Feel a little
Unusual?
queasy, to be
I was
honest.
gonna say, I feel queasy
A little
too.
queasy.
Like when I came over and
Yeah.
stood in this
Feel
corner.
angered.
Anger. That's what Kim Russo felt. Kim Russo felt anger and tragedy. I know I'm not comfortable. I've never been comfortable. Never been
Like
comfortable
throw-uppy?
bringing
Yeah,
people
I feel
in
throw-uppy.
reality.
Yeah.
I feel a sharp pain in my chest, like really almost like it's like penetrating, like a sharp pain in my chest, and I feel like really sad.
Are you ultra sensitive to spirits?
I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, you're younger, and I think that the younger you are, the more in tune with the spirit world you are, because you don't have as much luggage as we grow up. No, seriously, as we grow up, we mature in ways. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, and I don't want to take this back into something crazy, but as a child, I had awareness at a very young age, and being raised in the South, I can remember lying in my bassinet and seeing an Indian in a loincloth walking up and down and looking in at my mom and dad and I. My mom and dad would be in the bed sleeping. But, I don't see things anymore, but I saw that, and I saw it over and over, so I know it wasn't my imagination. So, does anyone have any questions? Well, just remember, there is something about Mary, but I've never had a truly negative experience in the ship. I'm uncomfortable in here. There are places I don't like to go by myself. But all throughout her life, she was known as a happy ship. She was beloved more than any other ship in the fleet by her crew and passengers alike. So I hope that you'll take a bit of this legend and lore and allow the Queen Mary place in your heart and share her with others. And so that way, something so magnificent will be here for so many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we can turn the lights on now.
We have a couple of minutes.
You
Oh,
feel
here's
it.
Well,
Welcome to
Yeah.
Haunted Elevator. We'll see if it actually reaches the bottom level. But welcome everybody. My name is Matt Schultz. I'm going to be your guide for the next half hour or so. I'm the resident paranormal investigator and the host of the Paranormal Investigation Tours. And we're going to be going down to the boiler room system, one of the coveted areas to investigate. The way we get to spend time down there is exclusive to my tour. most everybody has to walk through. It's just a guided walking tour, but we get to hang out there and investigate for long periods of time, which is exciting. So we're going to go down there, show you some lighting equipment that we have, some investigation equipment, and then we're going to do a demonstration on a piece of equipment that may allow us to hear spirit voices recorded on the spot immediately. Very exciting. So follow me. It's a little dark here, but hey, this is fun.
Oh, Dark Harbor says.
This way, everybody.
First time I was here with Robert House, Sarah like she pushed me down the stairs.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Rob just talks about it. You know how it is.
Oh, yes. I sure do. This way, everybody.
I feel comfortable actually.
Oh, yeah, I was feel comfortable down here.
And it smells incredible.
After I'd done it.
Sorry, there was like
10,000th time.
It smells like tar stick.
Trying to get out of the way
Yes,
of
I
it.
know. It's got that nice little attraction smell to it. All right, I'm stopping here because I'm going to show you a really neat experiment that we have down here, something called the laser grid experiment. Now, I know that we have some lights here, so it's going to neuter the effect a little bit, but you'll be able to see it. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on right now. So we have several of these set up within the boiler room system in different parts. This system may allow us to see spirit entities that move between the light source, which is at your feet, in the background. It may look like a major shadow, may look like a distortion in the light, just depends. But a lot of people like to just sit here and watch the lights as they try to record for spirit voices on my tour. And by the way, my tours are Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And they go late night. Fridays and Saturdays, they start at 11 and go to like 3 in the morning, and then 1 hour earlier on Sundays. So it's a long experience. I share education, investigative protocol, experimentation that we do on my investigations as a team here and elsewhere. And so it's the opportunity for guests to become part of an investigation team without actually having to join one. So the idea is that it's a data gathering tour. Everybody takes home evidence to review and possibly find something awesome and respond to us. And I spend about 6 to 8 hours a week going through evidence and data that guests send to me, editing it, vetting it, etc. So we get lots of stuff on a continuous basis. I have a huge archive of high strangeness from the ship that I'm archiving for future generations. It's a very, very exciting position to be in, and I'm very honored to have the position as well. So let's make our way down here. This is boiler room number 1, by the way, boiler room number 1. So we've just entered boiler room number 2. People always ask me, Matt, are we underwater? I get this feeling we're underwater. We are. If you look here, this white paint job here where it meets this rust paint line, that's the water line outside. We're about 40 feet or so underwater right now. And we're cheating a little bit. We're on a 6 foot high or so platform. So we're pretty far down underwater. All right. And this piping apparatus has no basis or reality for a real boiler room. This is for the Ghosts and Legends entertainment tour during the day. Very exciting, fun entertainment tour that's doing some refurbishment work right now. It'll be back up and running shortly. Very, very popular. Been here since the mid-1990s. If you haven't tried it, checked it out. It's a lot of fun. It's just been reimagined, and it is pretty awesome, I gotta tell you. Really awesome. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our way right over here to the safe room, and we're gonna go on in. So follow me this way. Just to let you know, we have boiler rooms 3 and 4 that direction. During our tours, we get to investigate all of it. Literally a football field length of boiler room system here to investigate. So people really enjoy hanging out down here and having the run of the boiler room system. So we're gonna go through this door here. You can continue, I guess, using your lights or not. It's really up to you if you like. And if the vote is the majority, I'll turn on the white lights in there so you don't have to have your lights. It's up to you. Some people like the dark. Come on in. All right. Come on in, everybody. come on in. Come on in. Feel free to sit down on the bench, or you can run the perimeter of the room, put your back up against the wall. It's up to you. Hello. I didn't take a look to say hello. I'm the guy with the Disney stuff in the elevator. Yes.
Oh.
That's me. I did a little quick change. I did do that. All right. So welcome to the safe room, everybody. It really is a safe room. This room is built for the guests of that Ghost and Legends tour I just told you a moment ago. If there were ever an emergency situation where they couldn't go back up the elevator, they could come in here for shelter. There's an emergency call box back there. They can hit the button for security. So it really is a safe room, yet it's one of the several what I call weird spots aboard the ship. Places where we have extra numbers of high strangeness occur, including disembodied voices, touching, great EVP, captures, etc., energies pushing people, that kind of thing. So I just love this room, So we're going to do a little bit of work in here with the time that we have left. I just wanted to show you a little display of some of the equipment that we use. Some of it's more exotic than others. We have basic compasses and thermometers all the way to systems that may allow us to sense free-floating static electricity fields. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for energy anomalies within the environment mostly. We feel that spirits use energy to interact with us. That's the one thing that most paranormal investigators have come together on. I mean, you can, in this field like ufology, there's a lot of arguments about what's going on, right? But one thing we've all come together on is that spirits use energy to interact with us. We're always looking for energy anomalies. So let me see if I can get a little something going here with some static. It's very moist down here. Oh, there we go. Get a little hit there for a second. There we go. Right there. So it's sensing a static field there. So we think that spirits might be able to manipulate or create static fields. Oftentimes when people hear disembodied voices in their ears, not only do they hear it, but they feel it. They feel that there's something there. And some people feel it might be a static discharge, for example. So that's one example of many concepts that we have out there. So what I want to do is I want to do a demonstration of my EVP listening station for you guys. This may allow us to hear those elusive EVPs on the spot. There's got to be somebody here that doesn't know what EVP is. Electronic voice phenomenon. It's the recording of a possible spirit voice on a recording device. And it's a voice you didn't hear at the time that it was recorded, but you later discover it when you're playing your recording back. So it appears they're like magic, right? Or at least it seems like magic, because we don't know the technology and science behind it yet. And we probably never will. Probably never will. So the key to the system is this little recorder here, built and designed specifically to do this work, so it's specialized piece of equipment. This is a digital delay playback recorder. So we're going to record 23 seconds, and I'll ask a question, we're going to go completely silent. When the 23 seconds is up, it's going to play back through my loudspeaker here. And in that silent time, we're going to listen for any voices or anything anomalous that might be possible spirit-based. So we're listening to everything on a 23-second delay basis, so if that makes sense to anybody here, to everybody here. Good, okay. I have to stop and start in between questions when I'm using this for a big group like this. Oftentimes we'll transmit to wireless headphones, which I use during my tours, which is really nice. And we don't have to do the stop and start. We just let it run continuously, and once you get used to the delay and asking questions, it's a beautiful thing. You just ask a question and you just sit there and wait for a possible answer to come back. So, people always ask me, well, do you ever get any evidence from the thing? And the answer is, so much that it's my favorite piece of equipment of all time. Favorite piece of equipment. I'd give up everything you see here, but keep that piece of equipment. That's how much I love it. So let me play a couple examples. This first one was using the system. I asked the last question of the night, do you have something you want to say to my friends? Do you have a message? And we waited for the silence, and we heard some whispering, so we boosted up the volume, and we got an answer. The answer is, look at me. Just like that. And everybody started freaking out. But I was excited, because we've gotten lots of spirits. wanting to be acknowledged. Recordings of spirits wanting to be acknowledged. Can you see me? Can you hear me? I'm here, that type of thing. So it fell right in line with what we've gotten in the past. And if there's anything I love, there's nothing I love more than evidence that links together, repeats, or has some kind of connection. So I love when that happens. So let's go ahead and play that.
Do you have a message that you'd like to give these people in the room here before we go? Do you have something you'd like to say?
So of course that wasn't heard at the time that was recorded. So critics will go, come on, Matt, that was just somebody in the group whispering. Well, I defy anybody in my groups to try to fake that. Whisper that loud enough so it gets on my recorder and not have your neighbor go. It's impossible in an intimate group to do something like that. I should say it's almost impossible. Nothing's impossible, right? But yeah, so.
And it sounds like it's in a well.
Yeah. It has the sonic quality of an EVP2. And once you become experienced in recording EVP and studying them, you can identify them pretty easily just by listening to them, the sonic quality.
So nobody in the room heard it at all?
No, that's why everybody was so uptight and stunned and what have you. So that was an EVP. That was not heard real time in life. Yeah, only heard when recorded back. We don't know how spirits do it. It's a mystery. Like I said, we probably never will know how it's done. Just the way it is, you know. This next one is kind of cool. This one I'm gonna play is the weirdest thing that's ever happened in here, and one of the top weirdest things that's ever happened on my tour in the last 6+ years. Back before they did some renovation work, I had 3 white folding chairs here that I also reserved for the ladies. I let the ladies have the bench too. And so we had 3 ladies sitting there. We had a nice group of people, probably about as many as we have here. They were sitting down, and I asked the question, do you have something you want to say to my friends? They'd love to hear from you. Another closer, right? Well, right above their heads, we started hearing knocking in the rhythm of a heartbeat. Just like that. And I invite you, when you exit, to see where this room is built on. It's built on a platform in the middle of a pit, away from the catwalk system. You try to reach beyond your natural reach over the railing, and you'll be falling into that pit and will be seen in the hospital. And you'll see what I mean by just looking. It's impossible for anybody to be knocking on the walls, back walls or side walls. We have that. Heel-toe footsteps. Have been recorded on the ceiling. So I go running out the door. I want to see what's going on. And guess what I saw on the other side? You know the story, nothing, right? Well, while I was out there, over here, that's as far as I could go, this direction, I could only peek over. Everybody in the room heard a male voice right above the ladies' heads say, "Get out, get out." Like that, yeah. And you'll hear their reaction, and I'm completely oblivious to it when I come back in, and you know, so it's a great recording. The first get out you'll be able to hear, the second get out you'll hear how this works with the repeat, and it competes with that repeat a little bit, but you'll be able to hear it if you listen carefully. All right, so here we go. All right.
You know, these people would love to hear from you. Do you have some kind of message or something that you'd like to say to them before we go?
Me getting off my box, going out the door.
Do you have some kind of a message or something that you'd like to say to them before we go?
That's the repeat. Here it comes. Right now. One more.
You heard something get out. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
That was a disembodied voice?
So we talked about that for the next 5 hours. That was a disembodied voice. Everybody heard that live in real time with their naked ears.
Yeah, I'd be out.
Well, funny enough, nobody left. they wanted to sit here and talk about it for like 3 hours, which I was happy to do, but it's very interesting. You think people would really get uptight about that and go screaming out, but people are very calm when these things happen. Actually, the opposite happens, what you would think. People handle these situations very, very well, actually. So what's our timing?
You've got about 15.
Oh, 15 minutes? Okay. Then what I want to do is I'm going to introduce you to the lady that sings. We have a spirit that sings down here. She has the most beautiful singing voice you've ever heard, according to people that have heard her sing. Those include our security personnel and guests. And we think she might be a nurse during World War II who helped take care of the prisoners of war, which were held in a pit in the forward cargo hold direction. But she had very poor conditions. Many of them died. So she may have sung to them to help take care of them, but she's been known to be around for ages. She's been heard walking around in the forward cargo hold, etc., singing as well. But she has moved over here. So finally, after so many years, we finally got her to sing a couple notes. So a lady and her husband, I set them off along with everybody else to do some investigation work. They came back about 5 minutes later. She goes, Matt, I'm done for the night. You can have your equipment back. I'm done. I was standing right over there, and I got touched. I got pushed forward. I'm done. Goodbye. So I took the equipment back, and she came over here with her husband, and she was standing right next to this door. And back then, there wasn't a pass that went into the next boiler room. That was a solid wall. So they were just standing there with their back against the wall, and all of a sudden, she hears something that you're going to hear emanate from right behind her head, and you'll hear her reaction to it.
She was already done for the night.
She was already done. And she got more. I will let you- The spirit wasn't done with her. Yeah, she was done, but they weren't. All right, here we go.
I'm giving you this back. Thank you. Holy shit. I was just standing there holding that for a second, and I literally got pushed forward. Oh, I'm done. I'm done.
So she comes over here with her husband. I cut out a minute of silent time. You need to hear that. Here it comes. And they were off the tour they went. So I played this recording to people who have claimed to hear her sing extensively, and I'm watching their eyes as they're listening to it, and you can just see them replaying that whole experience in their mind over again. It's like they're having a flashback. And they say, yeah, it's exactly what she sounds like. So it seems like we might have finally captured her singing at least 2 notes, which is real satisfying. Really, really happy about that. But I have hundreds of these. Hundreds of these. And I go on and on and on. Yes?
What's the one that's, since you've been doing this for a while, I'm assuming that these things kind of don't really bother you too much anymore, and you look at it more like a scientific thing. Oh, they never have?
They never
Has there
have.
ever been one that has been a little bit worse than most? One that has been a little
I'll play real quickly one. And it's not because there's anything bad about it. It just took me by surprise. I've heard many disembodied voices here aboard the ship, lots of them. But they tend to be in front of me or over to the side or in a corner or something. This one appeared right behind my back, and I wasn't expecting it. And that made me jump. You can get startled as an investigator that's experienced. I mean, you don't get frightened. You can get startled because you're just not expecting these things. You know, they just pop up like that. And you know, for the most part, you're very calm. But on the outside, but on the inside, you can get jazzed a little bit. But so let me just play this one here. So we're in another room very similar to this. I have the door open, and we're using the EVP listening station with the headphones. I had enough for everybody but one lady next to me. She wasn't wearing a headphone set. And I asked the spirits the name of the ship. And you'll hear something that happens right here. I hear it, my naked ear, so does the lady who is not wearing headphones.
Are we aboard the Queen Mary or the Queen Elizabeth? swap our headphones down.
Mine is just
Thank you. I just want to let you know that I want to acknowledge your presence and that I heard you, and we really appreciate the energy that you put out. Did anybody hear a whisper after I asked Queen Mary or Queen Elizabeth?
I heard Mary.
Came from right behind me outside the door. Are we aboard the Queen Mary or the Queen Elizabeth?
Yeah, I mean, there was nobody outside the door. I had everybody here, and it was right behind my back. So it's not as dramatic as the knocking kind of thing. That is really dramatic. To this day, I wonder, what the hell is that knocking in the rhythm of a heartbeat mean? I mean, it's like the international symbol of life, but what was the spirit trying to communicate? But that one, just because I wasn't expecting it, and was like it like goosed me.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just because it startled me. Nothing, I'm never frightened. If you get frightened about, about this subject matter, then you're in the wrong field of study, that's for sure. So, all right, let's go ahead and do a little demo here. All right, it's getting a little warm in here. Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3, hello, hello, hello. Test 1, 2, 3, hello, hello, hello. So it's gonna go 23 seconds. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. So that's 11 seconds. And we're gonna go a little further here to 17 seconds. Then you should hear my voice repeat right about now. All right, it's getting a little warm in here. Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3, hello, hello, hello. All right, so let's go ahead and turn on Periscope 360. Let's see if we can. Yeah, see, there's a perfect example of how the system works. It shows you the direction of where the static field's at. All right, so here we go. I'd like to say hello to the spirit people that can hear my voice across the ship and that are in the boiler room system. We have a great group of people here that are curious about you and your realm. So if you wouldn't mind spending a few moments with us and chat with us. You've seen the system used before. Just talk into my hand tonight. This is the box you want to talk into as loud as you can, please. And just going to ask a few questions. Do we have anybody, any spirit person here that would like to say hello to my friends? Any spirit person here that would like to say hello to my friends? Any spirit?
There's footsteps.
Yeah, I think that's us. That was maybe me. Would somebody be able to tell us, please, the name of the ship we're aboard? Would somebody be able to tell us, please, the name of the ship we're aboard?
Was that a no?
I had a question. Did anyone else hear almost like footsteps outside? Because I kind of heard.
I think TC, our tractions manager, might be right out there.
I heard a no on there though.
I did hear something there. Did they?
I didn't hear it.
Was that real loud sound, you mean?
No, it's
Somebody be able to tell us, please, the name of the ship we're aboard? Would somebody be able to tell us, please, the name of the ship we're aboard?
It was that loud thing, I think, yeah.
Okay. All right. These people would like to know that you can communicate by using the box, and maybe you can hear your own voice. Are we aboard the Queen Mary or the Queen Elizabeth?
And know that you can communicate by using a box, and maybe you can hear your own voice. Are we aboard the Queen Mary or the Queen Elizabeth? And know that you can communicate by using a box.
I don't think I heard anything out of those 3 questions, but it's a good demo on how it works. I'm gonna play one last thing for you, but I want to recommend everybody that's recording video, make sure you review your video with headphones and listen. You may have gotten some EVP. We often get EVP in video recordings. People that come here to record TV shows or whatever, news people, they'll walk away with some oddities. So just a suggestion. So here, I just want to play this one. This is a good example of just a very typical, average, ordinary EVP response that we get with this system here. So I was just asking, just the beginning of the year, if any spirit ever spent Christmas Eve or day aboard the ship. Or excuse me, New Year's Day or New Year's Eve.
Ever celebrate New Year's Eve and day as a crew member aboard the ship?
So that's more of a typical EVP that we
Ever celebrate New Year's
single
Eve
word responses.
and day as a crew member aboard the ship?
It sounds like you almost said it twice, like one at the very beginning and then one through it.
But that example comprises probably 80% of what we get in terms of EVP, just short bursts of energy that turn into vocalizations like that. All right, so I know we need to get you back up the haunted elevator, so we're gonna go ahead and exit. It's getting warm in here. Yes.
Don't be disappointed there are no voices. It happens all the time, right, Matt?
Oh, yeah. You can't just walk in expecting, to do 3 questions and get an answer, so it takes patience. This one? Ah, it's nice and cool. Ooh, it feels better. This way, everybody.
Previous ladder, look at, it's like it's not
good for lighting down here.
No.
Yeah, it goes about 3 decks below us through this hatch here, down to the lower decks of the ship. So we are now in the forward rope hold. This is where they would store the ship's mooring lines, the ropes they would use to tie the Queen Mary off whenever she was in port. Now, there's been a lot of odd activity in this area over the years. Primarily, what we have here is what is believed to be a residual energy. An energy from a past event that is attached to this specific area on board the Queen Mary and seems to repeat over and over again. And what we get here primarily are sounds. We've had reports of the sound of a loud crash coming from the very bow of the ship. We have had crew members and guests on our tours report hearing this, along with the sounds of metal tearing, rivets popping, water rushing into the ship, and even the sounds of men screaming out for help from our lower cargo holds. We believe that this residual energy is from October 2nd, 1942. During World War II, the Queen Mary, serving as a troop ship, was off the coast of Northern Ireland. On board were 10,000 soldiers. She was just off the coast of Northern Ireland, making her way to Scotland, when one of her escort cruisers cut across her bow and did not clear in time. At approximately 2:12 in the afternoon, the bow of the Queen Mary struck the midsection of the HMS Curaçao and cut the smaller vessel in half. The smaller vessel sank in about 5 minutes. This was an accident that killed 338 of the 439 crew members on board the HMS Curaçao. Now, many parapsychologists believe that paranormal activity many times stems from sudden, horrible, violent, untimely deaths. And we have 338 concentrated right here in the forward compartments on board the Queen Mary. Now, in that collision, the Queen Mary did suffer some severe structural damage. Her bow caved in 11 feet. The damage extended below her waterline. Water did pour into the forward compartments. when the Queen Mary arrived in Scotland and they were able to go down there and assess the damage, they discovered not only had the Queen Mary taken on water, but it is rumored that they did find some of the bodies of the crewmen from the HMS Curaçao, the decks below us. So all of that activity seems to be tied to that accident from October 2nd, 1942. Any questions so far?
We're good?
We're good? Okay. Ready to continue?
You're very good at your job, Danny.
I love my job, that's why. So, in case that first taste of Dark Harbor wasn't enough, we're going to walk back through there.
Yay!
Oh, Eric, that ass. Been working out?
You Dark Harbor.
No, I gotta work out because I'm going out to the afternoon.
That's good shit.
What's that?
I heard something move over in the corner. I think I just unhinged. Yeah, no thanks.
Occasionally we do get guests passing through this area of the ship telling us that they have heard children on the other side of this door, which would be perfectly all right, provided that the third-class nursery was still in use as a nursery. But guess what? Has not been used as a nursery since the ship's arrival here in Long Beach, December of 1967. Over 50 years since this room has been used as a nursery. But still, we do get these reports from guests telling us they have heard children laughing inside this room, sometimes crying. And according to the ship's log, there were 2 children who passed away on board the ship. We're gonna go this way. Chloe. In January of 2017, one of our former crew members boarded the onboard elevators right over here. She boarded them down on our deck, one deck below where we are now. When she stepped into the elevator, she said that there was no one there. But when the elevator doors closed, she looked in the reflection on the doors. She said that she saw a woman wearing a long white gown standing directly behind her. She turned around quickly. The elevator was empty. She turned back. This woman was gone in the reflection. That former crew member was the second crew member that we have lost because of an experience like that in one of our passenger elevators here. It's possible that she may have seen what we call the woman in white. A woman who's described as being very elegant, yet somewhat sad, roaming throughout the ship. She's been seen in the third-class main lounge, the first-class main lounge. We've had sightings of her in the lounge at Sir Winston's, the dining room of the Promenade Cafe, and there have also been sightings of her in some of our hotel rooms. So if any of you happen to be staying on board, have fun. We're going to continue up from here.
Scary cat ever.
Back in June of 2016, one of our security officers reported that when she entered this corridor at approximately 2:15 in the morning after shutting down our observation bar, she noticed a little girl standing in the middle of the hallway. She thought it was odd that at such an early hour of the morning there was a little girl unattended in the middle of our hotel corridor. As she started to approach the little girl to ask her if she was lost, she said that the little girl raised her arms as though she wanted to be picked up, and then simply disappeared. The apparition of a little girl has been reported throughout the Queen Mary, so often that she even has a name. We call her Jackie. Those who have reported seeing Jackie describe her as being approximately 6 to 8 years old with curly blonde hair, usually seen wearing a pinafore over a light-colored dress. Most of the time, though, Jackie is seen in our first-class swimming pool, which many claim to be the single most haunted location on board the Queen Mary. A little more on that later. This way.
Jackie and Sarah are two different.
That is correct. Yes. Now, as we approach the 82nd anniversary of the ship's maiden voyage next month, I'd like to point out to our guests that virtually every nook and cranny has a ghost story connected to it. And that does include some of our bathrooms. For example, just behind you, the ladies' room, A deck forward. We've had ladies tell us they have encountered what appears to be the ghost of one of our captains in there, perhaps a ship's officer. Now, you may be wondering why we have a male apparition showing up inside the ladies' room. And there is a simple explanation for this. They switched the restrooms here in Long Beach. The ladies' room was originally the men's room, and the men's room originally the ladies' room. As for who this could be, many people believe it could be the ghost of Senior Second Officer William Eric Stark, who passed away on board the Queen Mary in 1949 after accidentally drinking tetrachloride, dry cleaning fluid. How do you accidentally drink dry cleaning fluid? I know. It was stored in an old gin bottle. Yes, it had not been relabeled. Officer Stark took a drink of what he thought to be gin. Turned out it was tetrachloride. Next day he was in a coma. 3 days later, Officer Stark was dead. So, that's how you accidentally drink tetrachloride on board the Queen Mary. Beware the gin. This way.
I heard about that. I've heard it's like, how do you
I don't even know.
that?
No, nothing today. But sometimes guests staying in this room over here have told us they have smelled cigar smoke inside the sitting room of this particular suite. And true, the room is today known as the Churchill suite. That's because Sir Winston Churchill sailed on board the Queen Mary a total of 10 times, 3 of those crossings made during World War II, under very great secrecy. We even had a crew member working on board in our housekeeping department who said that she actually saw Winston Churchill's ghost inside this room. Coincidence? Cigar smoke? Winston Churchill's apparition? In the Churchill suite, the one room that he always requested on board? Perhaps. But then perhaps not. This way. We'll be walking down 3 decks to go take a little peek at the first-class swimming pool. Careful on the stairs. I'll tell you why later. So this is probably the most asked about room on board the Queen Mary, the entrance to our first-class swimming pool. Now, why is it the most asked about room on board the ship? Well, many parapsychologists believe that located in the changing rooms of our first-class swimming pool, there is a vortex, said to be a whirlpool of electromagnetic energy that acts as a portal between our world and the next. Some psychic investigators have even claimed it has allowed anywhere from 300 to 600 spirits access to the Queen Mary. We've also had a number of reported sightings inside this room. Sightings of a woman in a white tennis skirt seen walking down the stairs at the forward end of the room down to the lower deck, where she disappears behind one of the pillars. We've had sightings of a woman in a 1930s style bathing suit appear at the edge of the swimming pool, dive into it and vanish. Wet footprints have been known to materialize alongside the swimming pool. In April of 2010, while guiding a tour through this room, a guest pointed out what appeared to be wet footprints leading from the swimming pool back into the changing rooms and into one stall in particular where they simply stopped. I should also point out that our swimming pool has been drained for over 26 years now. There's no water in it. But this is the room where Jackie tends to make her presence known, that spirit of a little girl I mentioned earlier on our tour. Now, when she does appear in the first-class swimming pool, it's usually behind one of the pillars, peeking out. We've also had reported sightings of her skipping, dancing, sometimes singing, laughing, crying inside the room. Now, because Jackie does tend to appear here in the first-class swimming pool, it has led a number of our guests to believe that she may have drowned here. But in all of our research, we have never discovered any record of anyone drowning on board the Queen Mary. So to this day, it is still referred to as a rumored drowning. we don't know the exact truth as to why Jackie is here with us on board the Queen Mary. Let's see, where do we go from here? Give you another little taste of the Queen Mary's cardiovascular workout. Back up the stairs.
From just being outside here sometimes.
Oh, yes. Yes. My very first experience on board the Queen Mary, I was taking a shortcut through that room when I heard what appeared to be the laughter of a little girl coming from the entrance to the changing rooms. I assumed that it was one of my fellow tour guides who was playing a joke on me, so I walked down there into the changing rooms. There was no one in there. I was by myself. So my very first experience on board the Queen Mary, I do believe, was hearing Jackie laugh in the swimming pool. Hopefully she wasn't laughing at me. Back in August of 2012, one of our many tour guides reported that when he entered this area of the ship from the hotel corridor on the starboard side, approaching the third-class main staircase, he saw what appeared to be a gentleman dressed entirely in black, walking up the last few steps of the staircase. He said that there was nothing out of the ordinary about this until that man reached the top of the stairs and suddenly vanished. The tour guide did mention this to one of his supervisors later that day. The supervisor informed him that he had seen a ghost, commonly known as the Man in Black, and explained that the third-class main staircase was where two of the Queen Mary's passengers had in fact lost their lives. It is the steepest passenger stairway on board the ship. There's also another problem with it. The stairs are located toward the bow, the forward end of the ship, which would be rising and then falling with every single wave on the North Atlantic, so it could be a little difficult to maneuver these stairs at times. It turns out that a number of the passengers on board the Queen Mary did lose their footing while walking up or down the stairs, fell down to the deck below, did not survive their injuries. It is generally believed that this Man in Black was one of those two passengers. There have been over 24 reported sightings of him on this section of the third-class main staircase here in Long Beach. And as for the tour guide who reported seeing him back in 2012, well, that tour guide still works on board, still does tours. And he tells his tours about his experience in the third person. But now that we know just how dangerous the third-class stairway is, let's walk up. Hand railings are recommended. This particular story really takes place down in our engine room, but in the interest of conserving time, since I do have a visual aid here, I'll tell you this story in front of this, one of our watertight door hatches. 38 hydraulically controlled watertight door hatches were on board, located throughout the lower decks to create isolated compartments, primarily in the event of a hull breach and the ship were flooded with water. They could isolate the hull breach to just one compartment and hopefully prevent the ship from sinking. Once activated, these door hatches would slide closed with about 700 pounds of hydraulic pressure per square inch in anywhere from 40 seconds to 1 minute. On July 10th, 1966, just after 3:50 in the morning, the Queen Mary was entering a dense fog and the captain issued the order to seal the watertight door hatches. At approximately 4 o'clock in the morning, they discovered the body of an 18-year-old crew member from one of our boiler rooms caught in watertight door hatch number 13 down in the engine room. Now, how he became caught there, no one really knows. Some people think he was playing a game, some people think he had stopped to pick up a wrench, some people think that he may have been murdered. The truth is that we don't know the truth. We may never fully understand the truth behind his accident. But what we do know is that a number of our guests and crew members over the years have reported seeing a figure fitting his description. Described as wearing dark blue oil-stained coveralls, he has a beard, wears a white cap. He's been seen in close proximity to watertight door hatch 13. We've also had reports of disembodied voices down in that area. We've had guests tell us that they have heard his screams in Shaft Alley. Definitely something you would not want to mess with on board the Queen Mary. Let's see. Well, that is going to conclude our little haunted encounters tour this evening. I do want to thank you very much for joining us here aboard the Queen Mary. If you enjoyed the tour, my name is Daniel. If you did not, it's Tiffany. And now I'll turn things over to TC while I get back to my normal duties.
Okay, then. We're gonna see how long he's gonna stay there.
Don't blink.
Tiffany, you're done. You're done, Tiffany.
You didn't like it?
Daniel. Now, Daniel is one of our great tour guides here.